Hello again, friends, and welcome back to the channel. This is Legendary Tabletop. I am your host, Greg, and today we are presenting you a monumentous day here at the channel. We've finally been able to put together our first battle report, and we're playing Onepagerules, Age of Fantasy Regiments, Dwarfs versus Ratmen, two of my favorite factions here. So let's take a look at our army lists. Now, this is a really simple game. We'll talk about some of the rules once the battle starts, but taking a look here first, we're going to check out the dwarves, and we have warriors here, a very simple unit. They're backed up by a hero, and then we also have miners here, another cheap unit. They have explosive charges that they can throw once, and they have AP on both of their weapons, their picks. We have berserkers here, an elite unit of dwarf warriors, though not much armor on them, but they are still quite the force, and they're dangerous against other elite units. Next we have Drake marksmen, some black powder units. They have hand weapons and fire rifles. They have an 18-inch attack, 2 attacks each as well, very dangerous. Dwarf artillery that has a range of 36 inches. 1 attack is blast 6, very dangerous as well. Also special rules entrenched and immobile. Then we have our attack helicopter with a mini cannon. It's fast and ignores all difficult terrain with the flying rule. A very dangerous and very sturdy unit. Looking at our dwarf heroes here, we have our berserker lord. He's attached to the dwarf warriors. He has 1 attack, though deadly 3. And he's fearless, has a lot of tankiness to him. Next we have the dwarf champion, also tough 6, defense 4+, fearless, slow with on his attack bear with 4 total attacks, AP 3. This guy will tear it up. And then taking a look here at some of our dwarf special rules, we have the blast rule for our artillery, immobile for our artillery. Lots of rending on the Drake marksman. Rending cancels regeneration. Many of the Ratman units have regeneration. That's dangerous. Fearless on our heroes, fearless on our berserkers, and many units that are tough as well with multiple wounds and high defense rolls. The dwarfs are smaller and more elite. Now, taking a look across from the field, the Ratmen advance. They are a scary faction with a lot of cannon fodder, some magic users, some monsters, and some sort of steampunk-esque type weaponry. And they can field a lot more troops than the dwarves, so the dwarves will struggle here a little bit. They're going to be outnumbered. Special rules here too. The artillery does have poison, which can affect and slow units. Next we have the Ratman artillery list. We're going to take a quick look at these. We have a big block of warriors here. They're not very dangerous, but there's a lot of them. There's rat ogres here. These guys have 3 wounds each. They're tough. They have great weapons too as well. 3 attacks each with AP 2. Very, very dangerous. You gotta watch out for them scary dudes. Now taking a look at our storm veterans. Now they are the elite Ratman units. They have rending as well with halberds. Quality 4+, defense 4+. Very dangerous. Next, looking at our Ratman artillery, we're talking before. Also special rules entrenched. Special rules immobile, 3 wounds, but 3 attacks on this guy with our special rule of poison. Next, the giant beast, quality 4+. It has 12 wounds, 10 attacks, with as well as a stomp attack. Next we have our great death roller. It's fast, causes fear, it's fearless, impact 3, 5+ quality. A very quick unit that will match the attack helicopter that the dwarves have brought. Next we have our monks. They are furious. They bit 2 attacks each. They all have 10 dual hand weapons. a middle grade, not quite elite unit, not quite cannon fodder. Next we have our Grenadiers. They have hand weapons and fire bombs with a 12-inch range, attack 1 on each one of those. Next, let's take a look at our Ratman heroes. We have our Battle Master. He is quality 4+, 3 wounds. He's also a Warlock Artificer, so he has a heavy great weapon with AP3, very dangerous in combat. Next, we have our Ratman Champion. He's armed with a halberd and also a toxic gun, which has 2 attacks of 18 inches, which causes poison. His halberd also causes rending. He's a caster. The way magic works in Onepagerules Regiment is you roll for your magic points with a die every turn, and eventually you will gain points, but you cannot have more than 6. He has many different spells, but able to boost his units, able to attack, target other units. The Dwarf heroes are going to be very, very resilient, so his magic direct attacks are going to be a great way to get through that heavy Dwarf defense. So taking a look here at the Ratman special rules, many units have regeneration, many units have deadly. That's where you assign each wound to one model and multiply it by that roll. Entrenched expert thrower on the artillery, and many units, many of the monsters have a lot of wounds, and many of the monsters cause fear, which will help in the morale. Alright, so take a look here. Now we have a 6x4 battlefield. We've chosen to deploy the armies on adjacent corners in order to allow a lot of posturing. Not much terrain in the middle of the field, and 2 objectives here on the base of each of these hills, as both forces are joined in the battle. Now turn 1, both armies now will activate units. So in Onepagerules Age of Fantasy, we use alternative activations, which is a much more fair way to make our battle a little bit more fair, so that you don't get your whole army wrecked before you can even move here. So choosing alternative activations, units begin to advance. Now the warriors and the miners, now they both rush and they advance 12 inches towards those objectives to occupy. The berserkers and the Drake marksmen, they also rush and advance, backed by the attack helicopter, which uses its fast rule. The stone thrower is slow. It advances only 3 inches, and the Dwarf Lord advances as well. The Ratmen begin their advances as well with a rush as well. Rat Ogres, the heroes, the Death Roller both advance. Both armies now just approaching the objectives. The Giant Beast is slow, special rule, so advances just a few inches here, and the Ratman artillery begin with the first shot of the battle, advancing 3 inches and shooting at the miners, causing 2 wounds and poison. The Ratman warriors were deployed a little bit further than the main Ratman line, and they are able to advance and try to sneak around the left flank of the dwarves, and they are backed by the Ratman Grenadiers, who advance 6 inches but are not in range to unleash their fire bombs just yet. Now turn 2 begins. Both armies do the same. They advance using these alternate activations. Now the warriors and miners now only advance 6 inches, supported by their general. The monks and the storm veterans both do the same, while the dwarf Drake marksmen now take up this hill, advancing 6 inches and shoot at the rat ogres, causing 2 wounds. The berserkers advance 6 inches, backed by the attack helicopter, which uses its fast rule to advance 8 inches. Still not quite in range here. Meanwhile, the Ratman champion has rolled 2 times now for magic and has full magic. The Ratman warriors, they charge the berserkers but are unable to cause any wounds. Bad rolls here. Ratman artillery fire at the Myers. One hit. Special blast ruled, causing several wounds here. The Ratman Grenadiers finally are able to launch their attacks as well, causing the first wound on the Berserkers, while the giant beast slow roll lumbers behind towards the hill, towards the objectives. Now, the battle begins. So, both forces across from each other. This Ratman champion here is finally able to use his magic. He casts lightning, target enemy within 9 inches, takes an AP4 deadly wound. He is able to cause 1 wound to the Dwarf warriors, bringing their numbers down by 1. The Dwarf artillery attacks, launching 1 blast 6 AP2 against the monks, causing 2 wounds here. The Ratmen continue to advance. Now here the miners are activated. The miners begin to use their explosive charges here. They're able to use these once a battle, though. They are danger. They launch these explosives. They are AP1 at the Rat Ogres. They cause 5 wounds. 2 of the Rat Ogres are now removed from the unit. Only 1 Rat Ogre remains. The Death Roller, using also its fast speedy rule, begins to move around the hill away from the objective, but it charges 16 inches towards the Dwarf artillery, getting itself deep into the Dwarven back line. Meanwhile, the Rat Warriors continue to combat against the Berserkers. They roll badly again and are unable to wound. The Storm Veterans and Monks begin the combat. The Dwarf Champion unleashes 3 attacks on the Veterans, causing 2 wounds. Meanwhile, the Dwarf Warriors and the Berserker Lord, they attack the Monks and the Battle Master, causing 2 wounds as well. The Rat Ogre begins combat with Miners, rolls badly, does not able to wound, and the Miners retaliate and eliminate the last Rat Ogre. Meanwhile, the Drake Marksmen shoot the giant beast, causing 6 wounds. Rending cancels regeneration, but beast still has 6 wounds left. The attack helicopter unleashing attacks upon the Ratman warriors and causing 4 wounds there. The Ratman warriors slowly being whittled away over there on the left flank. Meanwhile, the Ratman artillery attacks the miners but misses, rolling poorly here as the battle continues and both lines are joined and each army is attacking each other. Now, turn 4 begins. Both armies begin their final turn, and the decision will be made on who holds the objective and who is victorious. Our Ratman champion uses the remaining of his magic to cause 1 wound, casting lightning against our Dwarf General here. Dwarf General now is down to 1 wound. Meanwhile, we have a special rule. The Great Death Roller attacks. The artillery rolls a 1, misfires, and both units are destroyed. The Dwarf Warriors and Berserker Lord are attacking the Ratman General, and he is killed. The Storm Veterans fail their morale. Meanwhile, the Drake Marksmen cause 4 more wounds against the giant beast, which now only has 2 wounds left. Meanwhile, the Ratman Warriors are once again in combat with the Berserkers. Their numbers have been deeply thinned by both attacks, and they actually fail the combat and fail their morale. Meanwhile, the attack helicopter, confident, begins to get into the Ratmen's back line here, unleashing 2 attacks, blast 3, destroying, eliminating the Ratman artillery from the field. The Ratman warriors here now will fail their morale roll and they will begin to flee. Meanwhile, the giant beast is attacking the Drake Marksmen here, retaliating, causing 4 wounds. The miners are victorious. Meanwhile, the Ratman veterans and monks, the monks fail their morale roll, and both objectives now are in control of the dwarves. So 4 turns have passed here. Both armies have done their business, and both objectives now belong to the dwarves. And I want to thank you for checking out our channel. Please like and subscribe. There's going to be a lot more battle reports coming along. You know, if we haven't earned your subscription here on this time, check out the Legendary Tabletop backlog. I'm sure there's a video there that you will enjoy. We have a lot of different stuff about crafting, a lot of different stuff about miniature painting, and thanks again for watching, and we will see you again on the next battle report. This is Legendary Tabletop. I'm your host. We'll see you next time.